Behind Miami's 1980s drug wars stood one of the most notorious criminal figures in history. And she wasn't a king, she was a queen. Her name was Griselda Blanco. Born in Colombia, she rose from poverty into the world of organized crime, becoming a major force in the international cocaine trade. By the late 1970s, Blanco had moved operations to Miami, building a vast trafficking network. Her influence and ruthlessness earned her the nickname, the Cocaine Godmother. But power didn't last forever. U.S. authorities tracked her activities for years. In 1985, she was arrested and later sentenced to prison, becoming one of the most well-known figures in drug crime history. Her story highlights the dark realities behind organized crime, ambition, danger, and the heavy consequences that follow. This isn't a tale of glamour. It's a warning about how crime destroys lives. Would you like more stories from history like this? New York City, one of the most powerful crime organizations in American history, the Gambino crime family. Naming itself after boss Carlo Gambino in the 1950s, the group operated inside the American Mafia network, involved in illegal business activities like racketeering, extortion, and underground financial operations. Through alliances, secrecy, and influence, the family grew in power across New York. But with power came attention, and federal investigators began tracking their activities. In the 1980s and 1990s, major prosecutions targeted top members. High-profile trials, surveillance, and new laws weakened the organization and exposed its operations. Today, the Gambino name survives mostly as history, a reminder of how criminal networks rise and how law enforcement eventually responds. Want more crime history explainers? Follow for the next episode. In the final years of the Soviet Union, a quiet factory worker from Ukraine lived a double life that investigators would uncover only after years of confusion and fear. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, a man who appeared ordinary in public, but whose crimes exposed deep flaws in the era's policing system. Throughout the 1980s, authorities noticed a pattern of disappearances near train stations and rural paths. But limited communication between regions and secrecy within the Soviet system slowed the investigation. Detectives relied on early criminal profiling, undercover surveillance, and months of patient observation to narrow their search. When Chikatilo was finally arrested in 1990, investigators uncovered a long history of social isolation, emotional instability, and behavioral warning signs that had gone unnoticed for years. His case later became a major study in forensic psychology, policing reform, and how investigative mistakes can allow crimes to continue longer than they should. Today, the Chikatilo investigation is remembered not to sensationalize violence, but to understand why strong coordination, mental health awareness, and early reporting systems are critical to preventing future tragedies. Newly released documents are reopening questions about one of the most controversial criminal cases of our time, the Epstein files. The files are legal records linked to the 2019 criminal case against financier Jeffrey Epstein. They include testimony, emails, and case references, but appearing in documents doesn't automatically mean someone is guilty. Journalists and investigators study the files to understand connections, evidence, and how the case was handled. If you want more videos on Epstein files' dark side, so you comment dark. I make a long video on Epstein files, top 5 dictator criminals. History's darkest lessons didn't come from wars alone. They came from the leaders who abused absolute power. 1. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler led Nazi Germany into devastating conflict and brutal oppression, leaving the world with a lasting warning about extremist ideology and unchecked authority. 2. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin ruled through fear, forced labor, and political repression, creating a climate where millions suffered under state-controlled power. 3. Mao Zedong. Under Mao Zedong, sweeping policies and social campaigns caused widespread hardship and disruption across China. 4. Pol Pot. Pol Pot's regime in Cambodia forced people from cities, controlled daily life, and carried out harsh punishments in the name of ideology. 5. Idi Amin. In Uganda, Idi Amin's dictatorship brought unlawful killings, intimidation, and the abuse of authority against civilians. These histories remind us why democracy, human rights, and accountability matter. Because when power goes unchecked, entire nations pay the price. He was the first name ever on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, and his capture changed how fugitives are hunted in America. On-screen text, Thomas James Holden, fugitive. Thomas James Holden was a career criminal from the early 1900s, known for robberies, prison breaks, and a long record of violent offenses. After escaping custody, he vanished, and the FBI needed a new way to alert the public. In 1950, the Bureau launched something never seen before, the 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. Newspapers printed the faces of the country's most dangerous escapees, and at the very top was Holden. The strategy worked. A citizen recognized him from the published notice, reported the sighting, and Holden was arrested without incident. Thomas James Holden became more than a criminal case. He became the reason the Most Wanted list exists. Some crimes leave more questions than answers. This is the story of Morley Vernon King. Born in the early 20th century, King lived an outwardly ordinary life, calm, quiet, and unnoticed by most people around him. But beneath that calm appearance, investigators later uncovered a disturbing pattern of wrongdoing. What seemed like routine moments in daily life were connected to serious criminal acts. As authorities followed the clues, a clearer picture emerged, showing how careful planning and deception allowed his actions to go unnoticed for years. In the end, the case became a reminder that harmful behavior can sometimes hide behind an ordinary face, and that patient investigation matters. This is the story of Harold Shipman, a trusted family doctor in the UK whose crimes became one of the biggest medical scandals in history. Born in 1946, Shipman built a reputation as a calm, reliable physician. But behind that image, investigators later discovered patterns that didn't add up. The suspicion over the years, an unusual number of his patients died under similar circumstances. Concerned families and co-workers began asking questions, and evidence slowly pointed back to Shipman himself. Investigation and trial police launched a major investigation. Shipman was arrested, tried, and found guilty for multiple unlawful patient deaths, shocking the entire nation and the medical world. Impact and reforms. The case led to major healthcare reforms, stricter medical oversight, and new systems to protect patients and monitor doctors more closely. Harold Shipman's story is a reminder that trust in healthcare must always be protected, and accountability saves lives.